there has been more and more pushing out of decision-making authority into the field. That works well unless you're trying to operate a fine-tuned network. And that's where we've had a fall down in a lot of our service problems. People out in the field in operations are all trying to do the right thing as they see it. But I want to stress, as they see it. What we are trying to do with the service design process is really get across the point that what they can do to optimize service in a local area may not be best in optimizing service for Burlington Northern overall. So there's a big stress on execution of the plan as the plan is improved. A lot of work has to be done yet on this. A lot has already been done on it. And let's face it, we'll never get to our objective of having an ultimate plan because the market is dynamic, our operating requirements are dynamic. This will continue to be an ongoing process. The second major area that I'd identify as where we go from here is providing additional tools for the marketing people to sell service. To first off, understand the level of service that we are providing to the customers. What are the standards and how are we performing against those standards? Which then leads you to the third point here, which is equipping marketing to specify and sell service. As you identify service opportunities where our service plan isn't right, you need to guide the process so that we do make it right. There has to be something in it for us. It's your job to figure out what that is. And you tell us what it needs to be, and you'll find that we're going to bust our rear ends to give you what you need. Then it's going to be up to you to sell that service and get the value that's created from that. Now, what we want to make sure we don't end up in is where we've been in the past, and that is that all railroads have had a tendency to try to sell what they make rather than try to make what they can effectively sell. That's what really service design is all about, designing something that you can effectively sell. As I mentioned so far, we've concentrated on loaded shipments for the business units I described earlier. There's a lot of work yet to be done for empties. We know how important empties are. We know how important it is to have service standards for coal and unit grain. We do have some standards for those areas. For example, we're right now achieving about 90% of our cycle time plan for coal, so it's not like we don't have any standards at all. We're doing real well against those standards. In fact, that's one of the reasons why we did so well with coal revenue in the month of, or in the first quarter, because we performed better than the utilities expected us to. They took more coal as a result. Now, let's talk more specifically about an additional tool for marketing. All of us in operations understand that you need to know not only what the service standard is, but also how we are performing against that standard. We have not given you that tool yet, but we're working like crazy to get it for you. And we're calling this new tool an SMS Lane Performance Inquiry. This is something that's going to reside in the TSO system under what's called TSO SBD menu. It'll provide actual service performance and percent of cars achieving plan for the previous week and for the previous 30-day period, and will provide it specifically for a lane, if you're interested in performance in a total service lane, or for a customer, regardless of lane, or more specifically, for a given customer in a given lane. And I believe this will be a real breakthrough for you. It's something that Intermodal already has in their service performance measurement system, something that we lack elsewhere in the organization. Now, the customer that I talked about can be identified as either the shipper or the receiver. You can look at it either way, and we expect that this inquiry will be available about June 30th. How will you get at it? Well, I'm hoping that this is going to jack up a lot more of you to get into the SBD menu system. It's going to be something of value for you now, but I hope it'll be a real incentive for you to get at. When you dial up this SBD menu system through TSO, this is the first thing you see. The second screen is this one. And I know that 46 of you, or I take it back, 48 of you know what this is all about because that's how many of you used this last month. We keep track of that. When you inquire against the system to determine what the plan is for a car, you would be inquiring against the second item in the upper left-hand corner of plan maintenance. That's the service plan, SMS plan. Again, there are 48 users of that so far, direct users. I know a number of you are asking others to get information for you out of that system that aren't using it directly. The new feature, the one I just talked about, will be in the lower left-hand part of this menu, and that is item 13, which is what you would type in for selection of the option. That's called the Lane Performance Report. This can be accessed through the Toshiba laptops. So I'm making an appeal to all of you out in the field that'll look at the videotape. You're going to get this information available through the Toshiba. I don't know how fast it's going to be, but it'll be something that's a lot more valuable to you, I believe, than anything else you've had, to specify the level of service we're providing for customers and to better understand the service standards that we have. I'm not going to go into the details of what's going to be in this inquiry because I'm going to rely on the service coordinators that you have in your business units to do that. They've been involved in helping to design this inquiry for you. What you get in the beginning, I can guarantee you won't be what we're going to have a year from now because this is evolutionary too. We hope to tailor this as you identify your needs. Which really brings me to the final point I want to make, and that is, it's something I've already talked about. This whole process of service design has to be a team effort. It has to be marketing driven. You have to specify the needs in order for operations to successfully execute. Marketing has to really help us to assess ourselves because we can't afford to get into the trap of patting ourselves on the back about how good we are doing based on how we think we are doing. What we do has to be judged. The effectiveness of that performance has to be judged through the eyes of the customer. I think we, as well as many other companies, have a tendency to look at ourselves through our own eyes rather than the customer's eyes. Therefore, when we look in the mirror, we may in fact be fat and stodgy, but we think that we look as svelte as can be when the customer looks at us like we really are. Again, you are key players in identifying how the customer really perceives us, what the customer's true requirements are. And if you don't feed that information back to the operating department, through your service coordinators, through the service design department, through the local field operating people, we are never going to successfully give you what you need to have in order to bring BN's profitability up. Operations is a real can-do group. You tell operations what to do, and brother, they will deliver. I guarantee it. And we're going to do our best to do our job right. It's up to you to guide us to assure that we're doing the right thing. Because we can do our job right until hell freezes over. But if we are doing the wrong thing and doing it the right way, we haven't made Burlington Northern a very successful enterprise. So you, again, are like the rudder to this ship, determining what the right thing is for us to do so that we can execute it the right way. It's up to you to garner the value that we bring out of this process also. I really have to stress that. I mean, we're going to do everything we can to give you what you ask for, and we're just counting on you to make it all result in the optimum profitability that we can get in Burlington Northern overall. And that's the end of my formal presentation anyway. I hope I didn't take too long. Okay, and I'd be very happy to entertain questions or challenges or whatever you want to throw at me. The question that Cal raised, or the comment he had, was that we have not yet integrated rail cost with the service design standards. And that is another thing that we're working on. I don't have a date like I have a firm date on when we're going to deliver this other piece, which is June 30th. But that is something that we're working on also. Our hope is that when you make a rail cost inquiry, not only will you find the cost of the shipment, but you will also get a service standard that comes out of that. And we're trying to make it less onerous for you to lay out the routing of a shipment when you do a rail cost inquiry, so that the actual service standard that's been established, that is the routing standard, will be put into the system automatically so that you don't have to guess as to how the shipment will move. Instead, the system, which has already been developed to develop the standards, will do that for you. And I don't have a firm date on when that will be available. Like everything else, integrating a lot of BN Systems applications is a real bear of a task. So it's a real wild card as to when that's going to be available. But I assure you that that's something that we're putting a high emphasis on and we're working on with the ISS people as well as the service coordinators in marketing and the cost and stats people. Noreen asked whether or not there's any emphasis being placed on trying to integrate our service standards with service standards that have been established on other railroads so that we'd be in a position to really, quote, dock-to-dock service across the interchange points, the points of no return, I'm afraid, in a lot of our businesses. And the answer is yes. We've been working very closely with Conrail to do that very thing. And again, systems integration has been a real struggle for us, trying to make sure that our system meshes up with theirs. But we are working on that with them. Conrail is the first one that we're really working hardest on to get something established that we can now go out and show to other railroads so that we can get others to buy into the process. I think this is going to be a long and hard process to accomplish because of the problems that we have with other railroads and the not invented here mentality. everybody has a better way of doing it, and we're going to have to break down those barriers, I believe, which I'm sure that we throw up enough ourselves in order to make this happen effectively. We understand that that's a key thing for us because so much of our business does move interline. And it only does marginal good for us to have a good handle on our standards from the cutoff point in our system to where we hand it over to another railroad. And what good does that do to the customer if we don't carry out through the rest? So that's a long way of saying yes. The prototype that we had put together for this lane performance report would require you to enter the SPINS number for a customer in order to get information on customer-specific performance. You notice that I didn't say you needed SPINS number here, and that's because we understand how onerous that is. And Sue Rathie, who is our consultant working on the service design system, has created a special file that is going to bring together the various spellings of customer names so that we can go against that and key against SPINS information that we already have, marrying that against customer names so that you should be able to use just customer name to get at the performance for a customer. And we're praying that it's going to work. We have a real problem with the customer information files across this system, and there's a massive effort being undertaken right now to get those things cleaned up. So there are a lot of things in works right now to make happen exactly what you need. And we'll see how it works. Again, this is a first stab at it. It's a very important stab, though. Ned asked whether or not the system will ever be dynamic enough to take into consideration track maintenance delays or derailment delays. And it does that now in a way, in that if track maintenance causes us to fail, we show it as a failure, and same with derailments. What does not happen is that we don't see an adjustment in the plan to account for track maintenance and derailments. And when it comes to derailments, I don't know that we would want to adjust the plan to account for derailments because, frankly, I hope that the people that are selling our services are doing it out into the future, and we're not going to plan for derailments, so I don't know we'd ever be able to effectively do that. When it comes to track maintenance, I hope that we are to the point someday, relatively soon, where we can build our planned track maintenance into the plan. Understand, though, that would require everybody in marketing to inquire against the system frequently as the plans would change. It'd be very dynamic, more so than even they are now, to account for track maintenance. I'm not sure that we would really want to adjust terminal tables and train schedules around track maintenance. It may be better for us to do more of what we're starting to do now with what we call our service maintenance planning process. That is where service design, the engineering department, the operating regions, and the divisions are getting together to plan into the future when we will see major gang work and to try to schedule the track gangs around the trains to the greatest degree possible. What we're trying to do with this approach is to cut marketing into the process so that we have, out a month to 3 months from now, a plan on when you're going to see outages in certain lanes. And for example, in intermodal, we've been doing this, frankly, more than others. For shippers like UPS, tell them when we will see their service impinged in certain